spiritual awakening to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, international best-selling metaphysical author and founder of Inner Realms Publishing. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today we have Lisa Campion. She has been a psychic since way before it was cool to be. Now with 35 years in the field and 15,000 plus sessions under her belt, she mentors the next wave of psychics, empaths, and energy healers. She's the only one you call when your gifts are waking up fast and your soul work can't wait. A best-selling author, Shift Network teacher, and co-founder of the Quantum Mystic Mystery School, Lisa brings the wisdom, clarity, and no-fluff truth you didn't know you needed. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Megan. It's so beautiful to be with you today.
Yes, and especially after being a guest on your podcast, it's nice to reconnect on mine.
Yeah, I love that. I love a podcast exchange. It's always so fun.
Yes. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what does enlightenment mean to you?
Oh, that's such a great question. Nobody ever asked me that question. I love it. I feel like to me, it's like an inner process. It's like the going inside and doing the inner work that kind of clears out all of the things that stand in the way of that. That's seems to me like that's our natural state, but it gets all clouded with our traumas and our anxieties and our thoughts and our unprocessed feelings. And I feel like our job is to continue the inner work. So I think it's an inner. I have a mystery school, and it said that at the entrance to the mystery schools was a slogan. The slogan was "Know thyself." That's the key to enlightenment, is to know yourself. And I feel like it's about really deeply embracing our humanity, embracing who we are, embracing all the pieces of us, not trying to transcend our humanity, not trying to rise above somehow the sinful, horrible creatures that humans think they are, but really to embrace all that, sort of the full harmonic merging of our spiritual and human self. And when we fully do that, we realize that we're part of the oneness. We achieve unity consciousness, and we realize we're just part of this greater oneness.
Yes, good answer.
That's what I think.
Knowing thyself, leading to the question of which self, right? And
Yeah.
the different perceptions and levels of what we understand self to be.
Yes.
So there's that egoic self, there's the spiritual oneness of the self, there's the physical self, and they often get quite confused. So I do agree that it is the merging and the discarding of the individuality that keeps us in the loop.
Right. And I think the discarding comes with a full embracing of it all. I work with the 4-5 bodies model, like so the physical body, emotional body, mental body, energetic body, spiritual body, and which self, we could break it down into that. I was also trained in synthesis, which is parts work, as a therapist. And so looking at our subpersonalities, our parts, the part of you that's the inner child archetypes, the part of you that's this way or that way. And for me, it's been the uncovering process of all those different parts of myself that gives me the knowing of the fullness of myself, and like the disidentification with the ego a little bit. Like, we have an ego. We need the ego as long as we're alive. I always say, if you want to show up to work at the right time and the right day with your pants on, you need an ego. Like, we need it's functional. We want to disidentify that from the primariness of who we are, but I don't think we want to fully get rid of it until we shift out of the body. Then we don't need it. But I do think it's possible to achieve enlightenment while you're in a body. And it's more about harmonizing all of those parts, seeing them all and loving them all. I think it's really about loving them all, accepting them all.
Yeah, good. It's a good point you make about the ego because so often in spiritual awakening talk, we talk about getting over the ego, getting rid of the ego, and losing it, losing it completely in order to unite with those higher concepts. But I guess you're right that to maintain that balance between the physical world and the spiritual world, we do have to keep parts of it.
Yeah, you can do that. We can reach unity consciousness. It's not that hard. Just take the heroic dose of mushrooms on your psychedelic journey, and you can drop your ego like that. However, then you want to go to Cumbies and buy a gallon of milk. You better have one of those things. Like we can't function as humans in that state of non-duality. Maybe the spiritual masters can.
Yeah, because they're
Um,
not caught up with all the other requirements of life. If that you can all
yeah,
just sit on top of a mountain
that's right.
and
So I think it to me, it's less, I think it is important to disidentify from it. That is a part of me. It's not the fullness of me. But I don't think we can shuck it unless we until it's time to really leave the body.
okay, yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about how you came to do the work that you're doing out in the world because you've been doing a lot. 35 years in the field, training so many other people, walking the path with so many other people. But everybody had a beginning that wasn't always rosy and shiny. So where did yours start?
Mine, when I look back on it, it seems more comical than anything else. But I was born in the 60s, just in New England, just outside of Boston. And I was one of those I see dead people kids. So I was born with a psychic gift. I could see things, see colors around people. I could see dead people. I could see angels and shadow spirits, the whole thing. But back then, there really wasn't a conversation to be had about that. You couldn't talk about it unless you wanted to end up in the psych ward. Or I was lucky that my parents didn't drag me to the church and throw holy water on me. But they didn't really know what to do. It was, oh, you have such a good imagination, Lisa. That's what I heard my whole life. And I was like, really though? Am I really imagining that? I don't think I really am. But well, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I spent the first like literally 20 years of my life trying to figure out what was going on, where was the off switch, what was happening, what was I supposed to do with all this stuff. I had some really beautiful moments along the way, fortunately. My parents were hippies, so they took me to transcendental meditation when I was 10 because that's what you did when you were a hippie in 1974 is you went to transcendental meditation. So I learned that. I did this incredible thing when I was in high school called, back then it was called Silva Mind Control, but now it's called the Silva Method. Fantastic training for a budding psychic. I was really drawn to martial arts, so I became a martial artist. And so I had mostly because I just wanted to be a Jedi Knight. I wanted to be Yoda. But
Mm-hmm.
I found all those things to be deeply educational for my spiritual life. And then I went to college, went to university in the early 80s, and it was the dawn of the new age. Hallelujah. All of a sudden, then there were psychics and books and new age bookstores, and the conversation was open. And that's about the time where I started working. So I was 19 when I started working as a psychic. It was way back in the 80s. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I agree about the whole new age thing. It was nice that people were finally starting to talk about it at that
Yes.
time because you had both the institutional, like you said, perspectives on those experiences, and then you had the very organizational religious perspectives on that experience. And that cultural movement brought about a greater acceptance of saying, hey, I'm receiving messages from the other side, or I had an experience I can't explain without you being institutionalized or
Yeah.
forced into a religious explanation.
Yeah.
And now there's a whole nother level of that happening
Mm.
where it's going beyond the new age pigeonhole because I feel new age was great and expansive when it happened, but now it's too small for what's
Needs an
happening.
evolution for sure, you
Yeah.
know? And now I think of it as TikTok, the TikTok spiritual revolution. And it's very, there's the TikTok psychics, God bless them. And they're bringing this information, this material, these concepts, those experiences to a whole new generation of
Yes.
people in a whole different language, a whole different level of acceptance. There's paranormal TV shows and famous psychics, celebrity psychics. Like, so that I feel really happy about it. I don't think we're always all on the same page about what's real and how to do it, but how to do it properly and safely. But I do appreciate that the conversation has become more general because I also think people are becoming more and more psychic. We have a lot of things available these days that really open up your psychic ability. If you have latent or natural psychic ability, you meditate, do some yoga, you learn Reiki. Those are the three gateways, I think, to a larger spiritual growth process. And if you do that, it's likely that your psychic abilities will pop right open. And then, you know, there's a great opportunity there for you, but maybe it's scary, or maybe, you don't know what to say or do, or and now there's all these new platforms that are and conversations, there are podcasts,
Yeah.
there's books like your beautiful books that just open up the conversation to a much wider audience, and I think that's really great.
Mm-hmm. And I would add to that a fourth, which is dreams, because of course, I really believe that dreams are one of the ways that we can open up our
Yes.
intuition, activate our skills, find a pathway to the other side, and really experience other dimensions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
And
dreams. I think so many people are interested in dreams, talking about dreams, and I think also psychedelics. So I think the plant medicines have also created another pathway that bring people there. Dreams is one of my absolute favorites, though. And I don't know if we talked about this when you were on my podcast, but when I was in junior high school, my creative writing teacher had us start a dream journal.
yeah.
And it was such a formative age for me. So I started doing that. And then we would spend time in creative writing class in junior high school analyzing our dreams. So I learned dream analysis at a very early age. And
Hmm.
actually, even before then, I just dreamed my head off. And I think it's true a lot for visual psychics tend to be very dream oriented. And it was so beautiful to have, because I had vivid dreams, lucid dreams, recurring dreams, nightmares. I still do, but in my childhood, it was very unsettling. And I remember as a kid dreading going to sleep because I'd be like, what the heck is going to happen once I'm asleep? I'm like, oh man, I'm going back in the dream world. And then it had this magical spiritual training. Like it was the 70s. So it was pretty earthy, crunchy, but God bless my teacher it was a magical experience for me learning at such a young age. And so I have great recall and really like a love and a knack for dream analysis. Every morning I dream my head off all night. And the first thing I do in the morning is think about my dreams, talk about my dreams, analyze my dreams. I love it.
Yes, excellent. Then that definitely underscores what I usually share. And for me, I had a
Yeah.
very similar experience. I dreamed so much when I was little, and I had the same thing, really scary nightmares, really amazing flying dreams, lots of recurring dreams. And I felt mostly like the observer. I think at that point when I was a child, I understand how to control it, how to get out of it if I got stuck in that same nightmare again, or why I was having that nightmare. And so that really led me at a very early age to be looking for answers. And probably same thing preteen age. I was just like taking it to the library because there wasn't the internet, and I wanted to look up as much as I could about any kind of occult theories or new age stuff or stuff about dreams to try and figure out, okay, what is this? And of course, once I got to college, I was studying psychology along with all kinds of other ancient texts, but they didn't quite explain it for me in a way that satisfied me. And I think that is because it was lacking that spiritual aspect. So you could
Yeah.
read about the spiritual aspect, or you could read about the Jungian or the Freudian perspective, but they weren't coming together in a way that seemed holistic to me, where it was addressing both things.
Yeah.
And
Great point. Yeah,
yeah.
I have the same experience. And I don't know when I figured out the spiritual side of things. 'Cause I know I can tell like when I'm dreaming, I'm like, oh, this is just my subconscious like thrashing through something and it's uncomfortable. But I'm like, my subconscious doesn't have a lot of subtlety. It's pretty
Yeah,
like blunt and
sure.
obvious. And so I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I'll start analyzing what's happening in my subconscious while I'm dreaming. And
Hmm.
so there's always that part of me that's like observing and analyzing the dream while it's happening. I actually wake up in the morning early because you dream a lot right before you wake up.
Yeah.
And usually I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired of this dream. This is annoying and stupid. Get me out of here. So I just wake up and I'm like, okay, done sleeping now.
Mm.
I just don't get me out. I feel like I'm swimming around in my subconscious, get me out. But I do think that those spiritual dreams, the psychic dreams, are very different. They have a very different feeling, a very different experience. I get psychic information in my dreams all the time, but it doesn't have a lot of emotional charge to it, which is so interesting. So I know if I'm
Mm.
having emotion dreams, it's my own self, my own psyche trying to process something. But this really interesting and intense psychic ones don't seem to have a lot of emotional content, even though you think they should be, or they're about an intense topic, but in the moment, I'm not feeling the emotion. Is that true for you as well?
Mm. I receive a lot of information in what I call the middle world, or the liminal state, or the
Yeah.
hypnopompic state, where I'm coming out of dreaming and I'm waking up. And that's where I get all kinds of messages, phrases, songs, lyrics, numbers, people's names, a lot of time people's names in their own voices. In my middle state, liminal state, I often receive people's names. Many times I'll hear it in their own voice, their full name, as well as sometimes addresses or numbers or seemingly nonsensical messages, phrases, guidance. And so that's really what I'm investigating for my PhD, and what'll be my nonfiction book is going to be about that hypnopompic state and the information that we receive in it. If you are enjoying my podcast and are intrigued by dreams and stories of spiritual awakening, I would like to personally invite you to explore my international best-selling metaphysical trilogy, Witches of Maple Hollow. Like a mystical fairy tale, these fall-themed mysteries weave cozy supernatural fantasy into enchanting tales of magic and self-discovery. Start with Book 1, The Dream Haunters. The Book Life Prize calls it packed to the brim with surprise portals, ancient traditions, and dream worlds. Then dive into the elusive nature of reality in the Dream Mirrors. And finally, unravel ancestral riddles beyond time and space in the Dream Dimensions. Get your exclusive signed copies today at meganmary.com. Stop by the store while you're there and grab your dream journals, cozy blankets, pillows, candles, and more. And don't forget, they also are available in audiobook. Come visit me in Maple Hollow.
Can tell you what I think, and that when we're in that liminal state, we're thrown into the right brain. So the intuitive brain, it's the symbolic brain. We're in an alpha brainwave state. So when you're coming up, either falling asleep or coming up out of sleep, we go from the beta brainwave down into the alpha. If we're in theta, we're not really getting that's theta and delta. We don't get psychic information there. But alpha is where we have psychic information. So I think as you're waking up and coming to sleep, your brain is naturally going into the alpha brainwave state. And that's what professional psychics learn to do, is to shift into the alpha brainwave state at will. So we do it. I learned how to do it silva mind control when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And then I think probably you're tapping into the astral plane. So
Yeah.
the astral plane is like where dead people are, people who have crossed over, people who need help, people who are,
Mhm.
they're like, hello, you can hear me.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's where mediums go to get mediumship information. When I'm getting mediumship, doing mediumship work, when I have to go into the astral, but I work with my students to teach them to go more up. So when we go up, we shift into a higher frequency. We're tapping into, it's like changing the channel on your TV.
Hmm.
We go into a slightly higher one. That's where angels, ascended masters, like higher level beings that tend to give better guidance than random dead people and astral entities. They can, astral entities are a bit of a mixed bag. If we get into the lower astral, they can be quite mischievous and even dangerous. Middle
Hmm.
astral is stuck dead people. Upper astral, we have more, sort of archetypal guides, the fairies, the unicorns, the dragons, if you're connecting with those beings. And then there's a hierarchy of dimensions that go up. And so I think you're tapping probably middle and higher astral plane. If you were
Hmm.
tapping low, because you've got a high vibration, you're so light. If you were tapping the lower astral, you'd be haunted. You know what I mean? You'd be like poltergeisty, having more poltergeisty. I hate to say the Evil Dead, but it's because it's not really the case. But it's more horror movie,
Sure.
paranormal TV kind of stuff. But that, I think that's my understanding of it. I don't know. Do you think,
Hmm.
what does that track with what you think?
My argument is that it's a state where we are being psychic receptors, where we are
Yeah.
receiving information, where we can, it's not just our intuition that we're tapping into, it's allows us to communicate with these other
Yeah.
realms.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah. And that's really what the basis of all the work that I'm going to be doing is, to prove that, to bring together those previous theories about, no, if you're experiencing anything in here, it's just a hallucination, versus people that are actually traveling to these other realms in other states besides dreaming. So, like
Yeah.
to your point, and then bridging those two
Yeah.
to make the case to say, hey, this really is a place that we can do this work, and we need to respect it as such, and therefore also utilize it as such.
Yeah. So good. And I feel like it's such a easily accessible one because I don't think it matters how psychic you are, or it's like when we're in that sleeping state, the left brain, the busy side of the brain, the analytical brain, sort of out of the picture. And it's quiet. It's just not online. And that's the part that when we're in our waking state interferes with our psychic nature. So
Exactly.
we're thinking, we're analyzing, we're having experiences, and your mind's like poo-pooing you're like, well, that's silly. We're not going to think about that. Like it's dismissive
Yeah.
of these other experiences we're having. And so I think a lot of people who don't believe in this world or this conversation we're having right now still get to access their higher guidance in dream states because
Exactly.
that
Hmm.
part of the mind that argues is just not there. It's just out of the way. And
Right.
for some people, that's the only time that they have that they're in that state,
Yep.
unless they lick the tree frog or do the psychedelic journey or
Right.
something. But we can also get it in through meditation, through the hard work that professional psychics do to get there kind
Hmm.
of on demand. But there are
Hmm.
many other avenues, but it's such a good one. It's such a good one. And it's because it's so accessible to everybody. That's what's so beautiful about it, I think.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. And that's one of the reasons I feel really need to spread the word about it, because so many people are trying to figure out how to access their gifts. Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish it would turn on. I don't know how to get to it. And there's all this resistance. And I really do think that dreams is one of those ways. And
Yeah. Really powerful way.
yes. So when you first began experiencing your gifts, what came on first in terms of, everyone has a different thing that's very strong. So
Yeah.
for me, it's clairaudience, clair knowing, claircognizance, a lot of different versions that came on first and were stronger as the other ones came on.
I'm a visual psychic is my primary, and I always have been. And it is problematic for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a big pain in the neck, especially as a child. I think it's the one that's the most scary. And a lot of children who are clairvoyant see things get really freaked out by what you're. I always say, do you really want to see what the growly thing under your bed actually looks like? No,
Mm,
like it's
yeah.
scary. And so people with strong clairvoyant tend to have they take a little damage on the way. And it's also, I think, the most rare. So it's not always the most accurate. It's unwieldy. It takes more training to get it under control. And the sad thing to me is that it's also become synonymous with psychic. So somehow we run a psychic activity in one of my classes, and people are like, I'm not psychic. I didn't see anything. Did you hear, sense, feel? No. Feel it in your body. I think the body is probably the most accurate. And there's so many different other ways. And so I really like people to change their vocabulary here and say, what did you perceive? What did you experience? Because perceiving and experiencing open us to all the other channels that we have that we might be dismissing as, oh, it's if it's not seeing, it's not the thing.
I think that's really important, especially
Yeah,
because a lot of people are hesitant to say abilities because then people are going to say, you're psychic? Oh, I have a question for you. I need to know this information. It doesn't necessarily work that way. Not
right,
everybody receives their information the same. Not everybody is on demand, and not everybody is going to tap in or want to
right.
anybody who has a question. So
Yeah, no,
there's a lot
yeah.
of misunderstandings. What would you say some of the other misunderstandings might be?
I think one of the big misunderstandings is that it's something you can't learn. That somehow you're born with a talent, and if you're not born with a talent, you're out of luck. I do think it's a lot like musical ability or athletic ability. Everybody has some. Some people have more potential than others, but whatever you have, if you're willing to work it, you can reach your potential. But it does take work. So we
Mm.
have to have knowledge, we have to practice, we have to have a teacher, a structure, or a map to help us. Just like if you wanted to play the piano or you wanted to be really good at a sport, you study, you practice, and you know over time that you're going to get there. We should look at professional psychics like professional athletes or professional musicians and understand how hard they had to work to get to where they are. And the good news about that is you can do it too if you want to. If you're anybody can. If they're willing to put the time in to do it, you can take what you have and bring it up. I think that's a big misconception. I also think there's another one that it's really, I think mostly it's so subtle. It's part of our birthright. I think it happens. I don't think we would have evolved without it. I think we would have died in our caveman days if we didn't have this survival skills. It's really tied to our survival and our evolution as humans. And it's subtle. It's like that little voice in your head that's don't forget your keys or take the back roads today because the highway's all jammed up. It's like the phone rings and it's my mother. How can you tell it's your mother from the phone ringing? Like you just and
Mhm.
that it's subtle and it's happening all day long. And I think people think it's like the angel comes in and blows this huge trumpet in your ear, and then the psychic like has a fit and falls down on the floor and foams at the mouth, which really actually hardly ever happens to me anyway. So I think we need to see it as something that's interwoven into our daily experience. I used to say, when I write a book about psychic skills, I'm going to call it Pay Attention
Mm,
because I think
astute.
that's, yeah, I think that's really, it's actually called Awakening Your Psychic Abilities, but I think paying attention is a really big part of it. And that's why I encourage anyone who's interested in this to start a psychic journal. Get a journal, write psychic journal on the top of it, and just start writing down all your dreams. Write down all of your, if you pull cards, write them down. Every time you meet somebody and you have a first impression, write it down because first impressions are very psychic. When you have that aha moment, every time you look at the clock and you 11:11 or signs and omens and synchronicities in your life, because these things, just like dreams, they're very ephemeral. And we could have a psychic impression that blows your mind. And if you don't write it down, a couple of days later, you're going to forget about it. And if you write it down, you can have the experience on a Monday. And by the time it happens on Wednesday, if you don't write it down, you forgot you had it. And if you write it down, you can claim psychic brownie points for yourself and be like, I knew that was going to happen. And
Right.
I think you'll be shocked at how psychic you already are if you start doing that.
Yeah, that's a great reinforcement technique.
Yeah.
Synchronicities and signs and what they would call coincidences. Then people say, oh, yeah, that's happened to me. I've had that happen, but I didn't know it was that. Okay,
Yes.
now we're starting the beginning phases of that recognition, of that remembering. You just need to start paying attention to your point, recognizing, reclassifying, I almost think, what these
Yes. Agreed.
experiences are instead of just saying, oh, but that's a fluke or that's,
Or that old thing.
or I'm
Right.
reading into it.
It's just common
That
sense.
was just a chance thing and it means nothing.
People with claircognizance, really often the knowing sense, often fall into the trap of thinking it's just common sense. That's not psychic. That's just everybody knows that. That's just common sense. And I'm like, but really, do they? Like, it, oftentimes it's not. It really is something deeper.
Yes, it's an easy way to protect ourselves. It's a way to explain away what we don't know how to understand. And it makes
Yeah.
us feel a little bit more comfortable if it's just a fluke, if it didn't mean anything. But I find it a little bit more empowering to say, oh, now I know I'm on the right track. That's how I feel whenever I get that experience. That reinforcement is coming.
Yeah, I think it's a common experience that you'll have the inner knowing, the psychic hit, the intuitive hit, the inner aha moment, and then something will show up in the world to reinforce that. And that's where signs and omens, synchronicities come into play. I feel like they're guideposts. They're meant to confirm our inner knowing because we need confirmation in the world. That's just the way humans are. I think that's why oracle cards work really good. I think that's why divination tools like pendulums or any kind of dowsing, muscle testing can help us reinforce that and sort of quiet the inner doubter that we have, the inner skeptic that we have that dismisses. So it's magical. I think we get into sort of a magical flow. It's really beautiful and exciting when you open up to this idea. You open up to maybe you are psychic. You start doing all these. You start your journey. People always say, "I'm on a spiritual journey." You start your spiritual journey, and then we go into this magical flow where we have that inner knowing, and then we get confirmation by what's occurring in the world around us. So signs and omens is so beautiful, healing for people. It's sort of like proof that there's more to
Yes,
our world than meets the eye than our logical mind will tell us. And I think we need that. I think we need that proof.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It makes us not feel so alone. It makes us feel like empowered. It makes us feel connected. All of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Like the has your back and you're in this unfolding process of your own development. That's so beautiful.
So, what would you say are three ways for people who want to start on this journey? Keeping the psychic journal is great.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any
I think
other key tips for people?
Sure. I think oracle cards are really great. Get a deck of angel cards, oracle cards, any tarot cards, because your guides, your spirit guides will talk to you through those, sort of like a translation tool or like a bridge. I think that's a really fun and beautiful thing to start with. And I also feel like cultivating more quiet in our lives because we live in a very busy, noisy world at the moment. And those intuitive moments happen in those liminal states. They happen in those moments of quiet. They happen when our brain naturally downshifts into the alpha brainwave. So here's a really beautiful activity. Get out your psychic journal, write a question you want an answer to, or you can even write, what do I need to know right now? And then go do an activity that puts your brainwave into the alpha state. Meditate, take a shower, wash the dishes, walk the dog, but you have to do it quiet. No podcast in your ear or book on tape or radio or phone call. Like we have to have quiet. And when our hands are engaged in repetitive tasks, our mind shifts into alpha to stare out the window and watch the grass grow. That sort of slightly trancy daydreamy state and just wait for what arises. If you have a knowing or sensing or feeling, or if you have an aha moment, then write it in your journal. Psychics get the best hits in the shower or the bathtub oracle, I
Oh,
call it.
yes. I agree so
You
much.
know?
I need a board in there
Yeah,
with a waterproof marker or something because
that's
the second,
right.
and I put this in my book, the second the water turns off and my foot crosses that threshold, it's gone. It only
Hmm.
happens when the water is flowing.
Yeah,
It's,
that's so
yeah.
common for so many people get their best psychic hits in the shower. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
is we're in that alpha brainwave state. So cultivate those moments. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't ever have them, you're gonna miss it all.
Yep. Very good advice. For people who want to connect with you, where can they find you?
You can find me at my website, lisacampion.com. Stop by and visit, leave me a message. I have all the regular socials. I have a YouTube channel and I have a podcast called The Miracle of Healing that you've been on. That was beautiful having you there. But
Yes.
I think the place to go is my website, lisacampion.com.
Excellent. I will put all of the links in the show notes. And thank you very much for being here today, Lisa. I really appreciate you sharing your journey as well as what you're doing out in the world that is so important for everyone on their spiritual path. So thank you again.
Gosh, thanks for having me, Megan. It was so delightful.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Be sure to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button as well to be part of my growing community. Are you ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey? Don't miss out on the new Dream Empowerment programs. Unique opportunities for you to unlock your inner wisdom, discover your authenticity, align with your higher self, and bring abundance into your life. If you'd like your dream or awakening story featured on my show, submit it today. Your dreams have the power to inspire and enlighten other women on their journey. Visit meganmary.com to find out more.